Hello and welcome to another episode of World Football Summit at Home. My name is Paco Roche, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Jorge Pavao de Sousa, Managing Director of 11 Sports Portugal, with whom we will be discussing how the coronavirus pandemic is affecting sport broadcasting and what short, mid, and long-term implications we can expect this crisis to have on the sport broadcasting and content industry. Thank you very much for joining us today. Before we start, first and foremost, how are you? How is your family? And how is your team doing health-wise these days?
Hi, Paco. Thanks for having me today on this conversation. So we are doing as much as we can from a remote setup as a team on the production side and try to create a new approach towards the storytelling that we'd like to bring to our audience. And on my side and the family in Portugal, it's quite well. So it seems that the situation in Portugal is being perceived across Europe to be one of the countries where the situation is more controlled. And I do believe that that's due to the fact that although we are a very disciplined people across the country, the government took the right measures at the right time and put the safety of the population in the first level as the main concern. Having that said, as I was telling you, all of our team is working remotely now for 4 weeks since now. Yes, it was from the 13th of March that we took a decision to start working remotely, and we have been achieving several milestones on this process. It's not an easy one. Even every week we try to improve what we have been able to succeed to achieve, and it's a challenge, a moment across the industry for all of us, for sure.
11 is the official broadcaster of major football competitions such as the UEFA Champions League, La Liga, France's League One, or the Bundesliga, all of which, as you obviously know, have been paused for over a month now. As a subscription-based platform, especially focused on live sport, how are you facing this challenge?
So it's a daily challenge how to put on air a premium sports product without any live competitions. What we are doing, we are working very closely with the right holders and to try to get as much as we can to work with them on the archive and some long-tail catalog content that they've been able to provide us. As you can imagine, most of the federations and the right holders, although they have a huge library on archive, much of that library was not very, the proposition was not product-oriented. So it's a very complex decision on our side in terms of editorial teams, how to pick it up, the different pieces, and to put this in a context that will allow us continue to be perceived as a premium product. This is one of the first steps. So working with the right holders, using as much as we can the archive and long tail catalog. We have then decided also to explore and to deploy the eSports strategy that was alongside across our product roadmap. For doing this year, it was one of our priorities to address to the summer period. We anticipate that decision and we start working on the esports environment with much more capability, also being supported by the rights holder, but also to try to identify some specific local actions, because it's very important also for us to have as much as we can as local customization. So even, and I will give you an example, the Formula One E-Series that we are receiving, we have asked the Formula One team and Liberty to provide us a clean feed in order to have our local team, the people, they recognize our voices and the team of Formula One in Portugal from 11 Sports, and we are broadcasting that streaming on TV with a very high quality of signal, with also with the commentaries done in Portuguese. And so the customization, local customization is very important in that sense. The third part of our content strategy or programming will be to try to adapt the studios pre and post analysis of some of the live matches, and now we are doing that for the Clásicos and for recapping big matches that UEFA has been given as La Liga and also Bundesliga. What we're trying to do is bring into the digital space, using as much as we can Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and trying to bring the pundits, trying to bring also players and ex-players and actual players. They have more time available on their side, and they are more willing to engage with ourselves and to provide the storytelling that is more compelling to our premium audience on the digital. So I would say it's content and archive pillar on the content side, esports, plus this digital storytelling that we are trying to deploy across all of our platforms.
So esports are definitely gaining a lot more coverage and visibility in non-specialized platforms like 11 Sports. Do you think this somehow can mark a turning point for esports, and especially for the relationship between esports and traditional sports?
I believe this is the first momentum where we can use esports to complement the live experience and the live product on sports side. I don't see this to be a major shift yet. And again, esports, it's a component of the e-gaming strategy. So when sometimes I'm hearing people across the industry, they are mixing concepts. And for me, what we are doing now is trying to build up this leverage on the esports with the main properties on our side, but not addressing e-gaming as a whole. Because we do believe that platforms like Twitch, they've already built up their own ecosystem, and they are already built up that capability to be perceived in a different audience profiling, to be the destination to go on e-gaming. But what we are trying to bring now is that experience back to the TV screen, because most of those young generation and those millennials are just looking to their PCs and desktops and laptops. So we are bringing that experience to the main TV screen. We are adding the analysis of that kind of tournaments with our own local pundits around that ecosystem, and also then bring that capability to put that product to be available on our on-demand and OTT, and also then bring new audience to this kind of activity, because now we are addressing people with 35, 44 years old, and allowing them to engage with the product that we are able to be offering on the TV screen. So it's a complementary strategy, which I believe it will have definitely a new scope ahead of the COVID situation, but it will not replace the live emotion of a big match in next years for sure. But it will complement the overall experience.
Jorge, you mentioned the millennials a few minutes ago. Obviously, the industry as a whole is learning a lot these days about the needs, the tastes, and the consumption habits of their younger audiences. I'd like to know, at 11 Sports, what are you learning about these younger fans that are apparently so difficult to engage with?
As a premium product in Portugal, our audience is one of the more younger demographics on our channel. So when we compare the profile of audience across the premium products in Portugal, the 11 Sports brand and the 11 Sports audience are much younger than my main competitor. Having that said, what we are now doing is to try to address these new audiences that were completely captured on the OTT and on-demand side, because in Portugal, our strategy is a mixed one. It's a very hybrid one. So we are very rely upon the pay TV landscape. So we have major distribution deals with all of the main pay TV platforms in Portugal that will help us also to drive this momentum, because we are not fully relying only on OTT. So we are bringing those two worlds more connected. What we can see now is that we are doing more shifting of linear audiences to on-demand OTT. We are looking to the profile of those audience across the day. They are completely different shapes. So before, the main shape will be Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, the 8 p.m. slot, the Champions League slot in Portugal. And then we had another big slot during the lunchtime and during the afternoons of Saturdays and Sundays. Today, during this episodic, so people in Portugal at 8 o'clock, they are looking to the news to try to get as much better understanding of the overall situation. So we shift the programming strategy completely. We are now deploying 5:30, 6 o'clock slot, bringing big matches to recap, and also using a 11 p.m. slot to put people to watch for sports later in the night. So we are shifting the profile of audience on the linear channels, and then complementing that experience, putting people to go to Facebook and Instagram to watch our commentators, engaging with them on a live experience every day. So we have Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays talking about football with our Planet 11 product on Facebook, and then we put on Instagram Tuesdays and Thursdays the Formula One team to allowing to engage with a much more younger profile audience on those channels. What we see is a much more heavy consumption on OTT and the on-demand catalog on those franchises of Formula One that is driven by the experience we are putting on Instagram every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So again, new way of doing, shaping the strategy on the programming side on a weekly basis, and very much dependent on the catalog that we are bringing from the right holders from the archive period.
Jorge, and I think the crisis unleashed by the coronavirus pandemic has also made clear the need for all the different stakeholders, talking about leagues, sponsors, broadcasters, clubs, to work together, especially on creating engaging content that can add value to all the parties involved. Are you confident that we'll see more collaboration in the future?
I'm positive on that, very positive. So the first 2 weeks were a little bit crazy because, as you can imagine, having a complete stoppage of live product immediately, even some of the right holders were not prepared to provide as much as archive and catalog that they would like to. They had to set up also on their side that strategy and that capability. We immediately start to engage with them to see what could be done in a much more integrated way. And today, I have to say that, for example, we are putting very much pressure on them in a good way to tell them we need more footage from the Portuguese teams from the past. So we are trying to get as much as we can on the Champions League side, for example, to have Benfica, Sporting, and Porto matches from the past, and trying to bring a new way of engaging and to comment again some of those big games in a different way. And it's very funny because I have a population of early 20s across the digital space telling us this is fantastic. I've never been able to watch before the 2003 game of Benfica or 2005 game from Sporting, and they are really engaging with us on that. And what we are trying to put out also with the right holders is a much more clever way on storytelling. So we are telling them, please allow us to come to the players, allow the players to have more capability, to be more independent, to provide some direct feedback with our audiences. And we are putting these Instagram live emissions every week. And we are seeing from their side a much more supported capability to provide access on the storytelling to be much more compelling. I'm pretty sure this will be a major achievement on the industry, because going forward, this will continue for sure, and people will understand that there will be new ways of monetization, even for the archive period, that it's not still that much monetized across the industry.
Do you think this crisis will somehow change the way both properties and broadcasters approach content creation in the future?
Change. Again, live will be always mandatory, and no one can take that emotion from a live game. So I'm pretty sure that all of us that like football and other sports will still be willing to watch it live, and if possible at the stadium. So that will be the key factor for sports to remain one of the key properties across the media entertainment industry for the next, I would say, century. Having that said, we need to find also ways to access to the different stakeholders on a live match, for the coaches, the players, to have more access on footage for the pre-match. Who knows, to have more cameras inside the bases for the teams when they arrive to the stadium, to listen what they are hearing on their speakers when they drop out from the bus to enter the stadium. So I believe that then there will be a new strategy to bring all this more integrated on a multi-screen approach, and the linear on TV screen will be still to broadcast the live match, and then we can use all of the different additional platforms and the digital ones in a way that will complement the overall experience. So on that side, I believe that this situation will bring a new way of doing regarding how to cover the live experience of a live match, that will be still key and mandatory to put the premium sports in the right top of the mind of the consumers on the pay TV side.
Football broadcasting rights have been increasing very significantly for a long time now. What impact do you think this crisis will have in the market?
So the rights costs, we have been seeing across Europe that somehow in some markets have reached a plateau. So they will not increase that much. Probably it will be more a split between domestic rights and international rights. And as you see in some of the leagues, and namely La Liga, the increase is still there, but more on the international side. And I think there will be a rebalance between domestic and international rights cost on that side. And I believe, again, the maturity of the contracts, I think, will have to be different. So in Europe, as we know, the cycles are at this moment of time, most of the times, 3 years. We do see that in US, in most of the major franchises, are 10 or 12 years. In some of the NFL and NBA, and I think in Europe we'll have to give a step further on that in that direction. I think it will be much more sensitive to allow a broadcaster in some countries to develop their own strategy for longer than 3 years, and I believe that a 5-year or 6-year period will be much more clever in going ahead, because it will allow still the bids to be constructed in a way that will being possible to monetize in a correct way in the country, because the 3-year cycle currently, a company like ourselves, 11 Sports, stepping in Portugal, first year is to step up the brand and to allow the distribution to be achieved. Second year, you are then start building up your subscribers base. Immediately during that period between the end of second year and the beginning of third year, we are already to engage on the next cycle. And it's very complex. And we can see now that the situation that we are facing, it's even more complex because we are in the middle of the renegotiation period across all of the leagues. So for us, the most important thing now is to guarantee that the safety across all of the stakeholders should be the priority. We have to decide and to understand how this will continue to go furthermore, and then to have a conversation very openly with the various stakeholders involved, and to understand how all of us can be somehow capable to still monetize the current cycle in a way that will not jeopardize the future of the competitions. But again, safety should be the priority on our side at this moment.
Jorge, and we don't know when football is going to resume. I think obviously nobody knows. What we do know, or what seems clear, is that football is going to be a TV-only entertainment for some time. Can it be a good time to enhance the spectator experience by leveraging technology tools such as VR or AR that have been there, obviously for a while, but haven't been leveraged as to their full potential until now?
Theoretically speaking, yes. Being capable of doing that remotely, it's very complex. So if people and if the teams are not having access to the studios and to have the remote capability to work in a very efficient way, it will be difficult to add those kind of components across the streaming and broadcast momentum at this point of time. There is also an issue, I believe, across our industry, which is technology. It was supposed since 10 years now to bring more efficiency and to allow to reduce the cost of our production across the sports side. That is not the case. So there is so many components still on legacy systems that bringing more technology is adding more complexity. And at the end of the day, although it's enriching the experience on the consumer side, it's even becoming more costly from the production perspective to deliver the sports content. So this is not the time for anyone to increase costs. This is time for everyone to be clever, to try to be efficient, and try to bring to the digital world in a compelling way the storytelling. Having that said, we would like tremendously to be capable of doing that. It's very complex at this point of time, although we are doing some significant changes on the digital space, and what we have been able to achieve on our Facebook live transmissions. For me, it's the best example. So 6 weeks ago, I was talking with my team, still before the lockdown period, we were bringing the Facebook Live experience in a way that it was a very simple one. Screen will be split in 2 or in 3 people talking between themselves, and that will be it. So almost a Zoom TV experience. Now that same experience 3 weeks after, it's with our logo on the channel, with some flyers, with some production capability on top of it. People are now disappearing on the screens on the Facebook Live transmission. So people will always bring their brains and power to try to bring new stuff on the consumer side and on user experience. But we need to do that in a very efficient way. And I think this is not the momentum for broadcasters to put additional money on the table, and we need to find a different period to try to bring that novelty back to the screens.
Absolutely, Jorge. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. Congratulations, because I think all the sport broadcasters, but 11 Sports especially, are doing really striving and doing a great job to overcome this difficult and unprecedented challenge, because obviously no one was prepared for this, and you're putting in a lot of imagination and a lot of creativity and a lot of work. So congratulations.
We have to do that. Yeah, thank you so much, Paco. It's a pleasure to having this conversation with you, and let's hope that we can watch the live game again very soon. And please stay safe in Madrid, and I hope everything goes well in Spain as soon as possible.
Absolutely, the same for you. Hopefully the next time we will meet will be in a football match, or why not in one of their
that will be perfect
on-site events, in which we would be very, very happy to welcome you. Jorge, thank you very much, and have a nice day.
I will be. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paco. Have a nice day. Bye. Stay safe.